Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one single dramatic day that absolutely rocked the agricultural world. We saw prices just plummet, sending shockwaves from farmers all the way to the global economy. So, what exactly caused this great grain drop? Let's get into it. So, picture this. It's the very last day of the month, the end of the quarter, and a huge wave of selling just slams the futures market. That's where traders, bet on the future price of things. And this wasn't some minor dip. No, this was like a fire sale for America's biggest crops. And look at this. It was across the board. Corn, soybeans, wheat, everything took a serious hit. Now, when you see everything fall at the same time like this, it's a huge red flag that some powerful shockwave just hit the entire system. So what on earth happened? Honestly, we've got a classic economic mystery on our hands. And spoiler alert, it wasn't just one thing. It was a perfect storm of what traders call bearish news, basically bad news, all hitting at the exact same time. Let's break down the three major factors that came together to send prices through the floor. Okay, the first domino to fall, and you could argue it was the biggest one, was a total bombshell from the U.S. government. The Department of Agriculture, they dropped a report, and it caught pretty much everyone completely by surprise. You have to understand, this isn't just some random piece of paper. This report is one of the most closely watched things in the entire grain market. I mean, traders based their strategies on it for weeks leading up. But on this day, the numbers inside weren't just a little off. Oh no. They were a genuine shock to the system. And this number right here, this is at the absolute heart of the story. 195 million. That's how big the miscalculation was that the market suddenly had to deal with. To put it simply, the amount of corn sitting in storage in the US wasn't just a little higher than expected. It was way, way higher. All of a sudden, the market was staring at this enormous surplus that nobody had factored in. It's a classic case of supply just totally overwhelming demand. I mean, just look at the scale of this miss. The experts were guessing around 1.3 billion bushels. The reality? Over 1.5 billion. One analyst actually called it one of the largest bearish misses ever for this report. With that much unexpected grain just sitting there, prices had literally nowhere to go but down. And down they went. But here's the thing. That USDA report, it didn't happen in a bubble. It landed smack in the middle of a market that was already feeling some serious pressure from what was happening around the world, especially when it came to soybeans, America's other powerhouse crop. See, there was this fierce competition already playing out. The US was in the middle of a trade war, which basically cut it off from China, its biggest customer. Meanwhile, competitors were making some really big moves. Take Argentina. They temporarily slashed their export taxes, which made their soybeans instantly cheaper and a whole lot more attractive on the world market. This quote from an analyst just nails what was happening. It wasn't just about price. China was actively, and you could say strategically, looking for other places to buy from to get around the US. And when Argentina made its move, the reaction was, well, it was huge and it was immediate. And if you want to put a number on that strategic shift, get a load of this figure, 7 million metric tons. Think about that. In just 3 days, China bought a quarter of what Argentina historically exports in an entire year. It was this massive purchase that sent a crystal clear message. The global trade map is being redrawn, and right now, the US is on the sidelines. So all that missing demand for US soybeans just piled on more and more downward pressure. Okay, so let's recap. We've got a shocking surplus of corn, and international demand for soy is basically falling off a cliff. But wait, there's more. Back here in the US, a couple of other things were going on that were just making the whole problem even worse. First up was the weather. It was warm, it was dry, and that meant the harvest was moving ahead at a really fast pace. So you've got this steady fire hose of brand new crops being added to those already gigantic stockpiles. It just kept reinforcing that story of too much stuff. And on top of all the real-world supply and demand problems, you had this cloud of deep political uncertainty just hanging over the market. The US government was on the verge of a shutdown, and that's something financial markets absolutely hate. And here's the real kicker. A shutdown threatened to cut off the very information the market needs to function. The same USDA that just dropped that inventory bombshell,
it might just go dark, canceling future reports. So at the exact moment when traders needed clarity more than ever, they were looking at the possibility of having to fly completely blind.
All right, so we've got the supply shock, the global demand crisis, and all the pressure building up at home. Let's tie all these threads together now and really see the full picture of why prices fell so hard on September 30th.
It really was a cascade, wasn't it? It was never just one thing. The USDA report basically lit the fuse. Then, the news out of China and Argentina fanned the flames. And the fast harvest and the shutdown threat, that was just pouring gasoline on the fire. It was just this perfect storm of bearish factors all crashing together at once. So when you step back, what did we learn from this one crazy day? First off, the old rule of supply and demand, it's still king. You get a massive unexpected surplus, and prices are going to get crushed. Second, global trade, it's not set in stone. The routes and relationships we think are permanent can get redrawn in a flash. And finally, you can't ignore what's happening at home. Everything from the weather to politics plays a huge role in these global markets. And that really leaves us with this huge forward-looking question, right? The chaos of September 30th wasn't just a fluke. It was a sign of some really big, deep changes happening in the world. So you have to wonder, with all this new competition and all this pressure, how is American agriculture going to find its way in this new world?